Hey guys, how are you? Today I'm coming to you guys, with a story that just hit the papers not too long ago about a recent event down here in Texas that was incredibly awful. But I'm going to tell you guys now that when I was researching this to bring it to you guys, there is a lot of information that I was able to dig up um, that will kind of make you wonder, but I'm not taking away from any part of how awful and truly heinous this crime was, okay? And since it is a newly committed crime, I will be posting extra parts of updates as they come when I can find them. But like I said, this story is a recent one that has affected many people nationwide by now. And I'm going to tell you guys a lot of things, like I said, that I found while I was digging, and for all the informational goods. And some of them are crazy. There's some things that jumped out at me that were truly crazy. So, yes, I will be covering this crime, but may end up mentioning some other cases that may make your hamster wheels turn. But, so many of you have heard by now about the awful mass shooting in Allen, Texas over the weekend that killed 8 people, including 2 little girls, sisters Daniela Mendoza, who was only in 4th grade, and little Sophia Mendoza, who was in 2nd grade. The girl's mother, Lida Mendoza, was also injured during the shooting and is in critical condition still today as we speak. So please pray for her. And as far as I can tell, I don't know when she's going to be out. Then, if I say these names wrong, I am truly sorry for the victims and the victims' families. But Ashara Tatokonda, she was 27, and she was at the mall with a friend when she was killed, and her friend that she was there with was even left injured. Her family is all back in India, so when they received the news, they were devastated, and now they are waiting for her to return home to be laid to rest. Then there was Christian Lacour, who was a 20-year-old security guard at the mall and a hero to so many people that day. Like, he was killed while helping one person escape the shooting and going back to help many others trying to find cover. Then you have Elio Cumuna Rivas, who was a 32-year-old man that came to America so he could follow the American dream and be able to help take care of his family. And then the family of the Chows. They lost a husband, wife, and parents, Cindy Chow and Caillou Chow, along with their 3-year-old little boy, James. Their other son, William, who is 6 years old, was injured but recovered and is now the last living member of his family. My heart and prayers go out to the victims and victims' families as they heal from this awful crime. Now, you may be asking who would commit such an awful thing. That would be an awful 33-year-old man named Marcio Garcia. This man would pull into the 120-store filled mall parking lot in his silver car around 3:30 p.m. and crawl out in black clad with tactical gear on and one AR-15 and a handgun. With all of this, he would even have a chest belt, officials would say, with 10 rifle mags and 6 pistol mags. This is when he would open fire on all the unexpected victims. In the video that you are about to see that has been surfaced, you can literally see so many people ducking and covering behind cars and trying to flee in the parking lot. It's truly devastating. There were women and children screaming. It's a heartbreaking scene, and I still have issues watching this video without getting teary-eyed. So I'm going to go ahead and play this video and just kind of show you what that day was like in the lives of so many of those victims. Shortly after his start of this shooting rampage, He was shot and killed by a very heroic cop who is still not wanting his name to be released because he's still processing everything that happened, and I can completely understand that. This officer just happened to be at the mall that day handling an unrelated call, and without hesitation, this man ran towards the sound of gun firing and acted by shooting the suspect. If this amazing man honestly had not been there to end, in the end, the casualties would have been far, far worse. So I personally, if he ever hears this, want to thank you so much for your bravery, whoever you are, and we are extremely proud to have a man like you behind the badge. Now, guys, I want to give you some details on this monster, but I am going to tell you, when I was doing this research, like I stated before, there are a lot of weird things that caught my attention, and I really want to share them with you. Now, you remember, I'm just reporting what I found, and you know I'm blunt, so I'm going to tell you my thoughts on some of this, and I truly want you guys to comment and tell me your thoughts, even if they don't agree with mine. I honestly love hearing different views. Okay, so the man behind the United States' second deadliest mass shooting. Yes, already this year, it's rated the second largest mass shooting. And guys, I'm going to tell you right now, just this year, in 2023, there have already been at least 202 mass shootings within the first 5 months. 202 in 5 months. Now, you may be asking, how is that possible, and what was the number one mass shooting of this year? Well, categorized as a mass shooting, just so you guys are aware, is there has to be 4 or more people that are shot, excluding the shooter. That is what is characterized as a mass shooting. And the first big one that happened this year happened in January in Monterey Park, California, where 11 people were killed. 11. So why have we not heard about all these other cases? Well, we will get into that a little bit later, trust me. But as for this monster, Marcio Garcia, after he was gunned down, the officers would notice that on the killer was a patch. This patch was shield-shaped with a notch on the upper right corner, and this patch actually echoes a patch that was worn by Nazi SS units. They would also find an insignia that read RWDS on him, which is an acronym for Right Wing Death Squad. Now, this phrase actually goes back to, and I know I'm probably saying his last name wrong, but it's General Augusto Pinchettes. He had a violent regimen, a violent right-wing regimen that in Chile in the years of 1970 and 1980, this regimen was notoriously known for assembling death squads to murder their enemies. Sorry, my cat is playing in the drawers over here, opening 3 of them at a time. Anyways, this was later claimed as a phrase for a white supremacist group known as the Proud Boys, and they would combine the RWDS symbol labels with shirts that would state, Pinchot did nothing wrong. Also, after the gunman's body was taken to the corner, they would find different tattoos on him, such as Nazi swastikas and SS lightning bolts. Now, right off the bat, the media started saying that this Hispanic man was a white supremacist that may have been driven by right-winged extremism. Okay. I'm leaving that there. Like I said, we will be getting into a lot more of this stuff later, but we're going to go ahead and stay with this right now. Now, when officers raided a house that was in fact Garcia's parents' home, they would find some even more crazy things, such as 2 black hats. One would say kill in it and the other would say security. Then they would find micro CD cards and micro SD adapters, on there they would find what was reported as a possible suicide note from Garcia, but they never released what the note actually stated, nothing like that. They would also find 3 boxes of ammo and loose rounds. Along with all this, a knife in a holster, 2 more holsters, and silver-colored handcuffs. So those are pretty much state-issued, police-issued cuffs. Now, this is just what was reported from Garcia's parents' house, but in fact, he supposedly didn't even live there, guys. He actually was living in an extended housing hotel. And as for the handcuffs and security hat, officials would learn that Garcia had actually been a security guard. Okay, guys, now listen closely what was reported. was that Garcia had a level 1 and level 2 training, which is required for all commissioned security officers in Texas and personal protection officers. Okay, guys, remember what I just said, level 1 and level 2 training, okay? Now, we will come back to that in a little bit, but you guys may be starting to see where I'm kind of going with this, with some of the information I'm telling you, but if not, we're going to continue going and it'll all make sense after a bit. Now, Garcia was approved to work as a security guard, for which he did for 3 companies from April 2006 to April 2020. But after that, after April 2020, his license actually became expired and was never renewed. So he would actually not be able to work as a security officer then without that certification. Then also in 2018, he completed a separate firearms proficiency training course that requires 6 hours of continuing education. So he was very well known with a weapon. He was very well known with a gun. Also, they would report that looking into Garcia's background, they did find that he had enlisted in the Army in June 2008, but was separated only 3 months later without completing basic training. So he was never really assigned to an MOS, or if you're a non-military person, MOS is pretty much their job duty, and was never deployed. Now again, I will tell you what was reported, but later on we will dig more into it all because, guys, you have no idea what I uncovered, okay? So, anywho, it would be stated that he was separated under a 2005 edition of Army Regulation 635-200, paragraph 517, due to mental health issues. Now again, I showed you this right here on the screen, so you can remember it, because I have something to tell you guys about that. But officials would also report later on that they had found on Garcia's social media, they found hundreds of posts, guys, hundreds of racial or ethnical motivated violent extremist and rhetoric material. Along with all this, they would say they even found a video posted online of himself with a screen mask using a voice changer on his phone just moments before the shooting, asking, not quite what you expecting, huh? And I have that clip for you. I'll go ahead and play it.
Not quite what you're expecting, huh?
It was along the final messages of Nazi-related images and hate-filled rants against women and racial minorities. He had even joined a Russian social media outlet that is a lot like Facebook, guys. And I'm going to say it wrong. I know I am, but because I'm not Russian. But it's called Onaklaskaniki, and I'll spell it out, as you can see, so you guys can figure out how to say it, where he had posted writings proving Nazi ideology. He would share pictures of his guns, a man shirtless with a large swastika over his heart, firearms, and ballistic vest with a patch with the acronym of Right Wing Death Squad on it. Though there is pictures, it is not verified if the man in those pictures is Garcia or not. They would also say that they found on the site Garcia had uploaded a screenshot of the mall from Google Maps just weeks before the shooting, and also had written the times about the mall, when the mall would be the busiest. So he was researching this, guys. He was looking into it. So he was planning this. This is all premeditated. Garcia would go on to say that he identified as an incel and would make many posts about his anger towards women. Now, if you don't know what the true meaning of incel is, I'll tell you. It's defined as a member of online community or young men who consider themselves unable to attract women sexually, typically associated with the views that are hostile towards women and men who are sexually active. So they're pretty much blaming other people for their lack of intimacy. He kind of used this site as a personal diary, because he would even go on to describe how people were making jokes and comments about the likelihood of him committing mass murder, which, kind of a foresight to me if you ask me, but I don't know. He would even say that his family were demasculating him when he would make masculinity jokes or comments, and they were just very dehumanizing to him in a way. He would even make a statement saying white people and Hispanics have a lot in common. Now, Garcia was an American citizen who had never even applied for a passport. So he's never traveled anywhere to get any ideas from any place else. He's only been in the US. And he had no criminal history, guys. None. The only report ever made that I could find on this man was that he had filed a report for missing firearm. But after a little bit, office officials believe that he actually still had that weapon and just had modified it so it would really be harder to trace. And since this man had no record, all these guns were actually purchased legally, which really wouldn't matter anyways because he had purchased them from a private seller, which in most cases, private sellers do not do federal background searches like if you were to buy it from a dealer, a firearms dealer. So how did Marcio go from a neighbor who was always kind, waving at neighbors, to a mass shooter? Now, that's the question, because nobody really understands. Nobody knows why. Even the officials have stated they don't know what happened. But you remember me telling you and showing you some important things to remember throughout some of these reports. This report. Well, now you'll find out why I had you remember them. Because, guys, there's a lot of things I am about to cover here. So be ready and just kind of stay with me, guys. So I know many people have heard about false media coverage and the theories that the government wants you to believe, what they want you to believe. And honestly, guys, I never really got into that kind of thing. I mean, even investigating this case, I did see some YouTubers who thought, I really didn't believe it. And I'm going to tell you this, that I did see some YouTubers that were reporting what they thought was accurate information right from the news. But while I was investigating this, I did find some false media coverage, and I do believe that maybe there is something being covered because they were just going off with the news. So they had never really looked into the things as extensive as some people do, including myself. And while I was looking into this case, like I said, things were just not sitting right with me with all the information. And I mean, as a corrections officer, I see many ethnics and ethnicities and gang affiliation. And I actually have really enjoyed learning the history of prison gangs and how to identify them by tattoos and other key factors. But with this shooting, there were some things that were stated that were not making sense and were kind of like, what is going on here? And I can honestly say that with this case, I do believe that there is far more into this and that it is false news to some aspect. I'm not saying all of it, but to some aspect there has been some false news in it. They want you to believe, okay guys, they want you to believe this Hispanic man with no criminal history just one day decided, I'm going to make plans to shoot them all. Okay. He did do it, but there's no criminal history. Why would he all of a sudden do it when he has no background of a criminal history? Why? It's one of those unanswered questions we don't know anything about. But also, they want you to believe he did it as a racial act. Headlines were immediately that he was a white supremacist. He's stating he was a neo-Nazi, stating that he had all these racial things on social media, and they even said most of his victims were Korean and Indian descent, which is not true at all, because he actually opened fired in a large area where there's multiple different ethnicities. So how could he target specific races when he literally opened fire on hundreds of people with all different backgrounds? And never once in these videos do you see him stop firing, look for one specific type of person with different skin color or different ethnicity, and say, that's the one I want. He never did that. So it was even stated somewhere that he targeted the mall because of his hatred for women, and he knew that the mall would be a perfect place to shoot multiple women. But he didn't just shoot women, he shot men too. And there was actually a large amount. Like, there was 2 men that he shot that were killed, a little boy that was shot and killed, plus multiple other men and boys that were shot. So he wasn't targeting just women either. And like I stated before, none of this has been confirmed, and actually they have no true evidence of it, but people are reporting this even though the police have said that they have not found any motive, but they do not believe it was specific people he was targeting. It was actually just the location. And the reason why, it was because it was the closest location to him, and it was going to be very packed, so he was able to continue killing. It wasn't going to be one of those stop and pause kind of kills. It was just going to be continuous. Plus, Malls are known as soft spot targets. This is where they are easy targets because they are harder to keep secure. So they are going to be big open. It's just like a fair or a carnival. Malls are known as soft spots. They're not very well fortified with security, everything like that, and they're a large mass of people that are constantly going in and out. So it makes it a perfect spot. And also, did you notice how quick the media latched onto this case? That is one sign that what you might be hearing is not always going to be accurate, because they will just start reporting things that have no concrete evidence. They have no concrete evidence for us. Like, they will immediately, oh, this happened, we're going to go over there, we're going to pull it, and this is what we're going to assume happened. This is what we're going to say. This is what our idea is. And they're pushing it onto the people. They're pushing it onto their viewers. They believe that just because he was on a Russian site, OK.ru, that it was like a secret community for him to voice his hate for other people's, like other groups of people and women. But in fact, OK.ru is just like Facebook. It literally was. Like I said, guys, it was created in 2006 by Albert Makahovich Popkov and is called, that word again, which actually translates from Russian as classmates. He created this to help former students who have already graduated and things, so they wouldn't lose contact with other students they had met. And like I said, it's just like Facebook, where you can post pictures, photos, videos, and share texts. You literally just go and set up an account, which, guys, I did this just to kind of look into it, and then I ended up deleting it afterwards because I don't really want it. But nowhere on there could I find anything relating to another report about Garcia. Nothing that I could find that would insinuate, hey, there is something more corrupt going on with this site. Nothing. It is also said that he had a YouTube page where he had posted racial statements, but we all know YouTube is very quick saying no on those kind of things. My husband's dying over there while I'm trying to record. So, but the thing is with YouTube, like I said, they catch wind, especially before even you post. They have to like verify it and everything like that. They're very quick on, no, you can't have that. No, especially if it has to do with racial slurs. So maybe that's why I couldn't find any actual YouTube videos that said these things, or YouTube could have been like, hey, he slipped through the cracks and took it down. There's different kind of things there. Who knows? But the media also had stated that the note was recovered by officials that resembled a suicide note. But where's this note? We have not seen this note. Nobody knows what is said in this note. Even the media does not know what was said in this note. So where is it? Was this a suicide mission? Was this one of those kind of things? We don't know. We're only being told what they want us to know so far. Now, you remember when I told you to remember the level 1 and level 2 security training? This was reported wrong also. And it could have been just an oops, but if you're going to report information, make sure it's accurate. Because there is a special license you do have to have in the state of Texas for security positions. But there are 3 types of licenses. Now, there is no level 1. There is a level 2, which is for non-commissioned security guards. This is the training for an unarmed security guard, and the duties of this guard is literally and is limited to observation and reporting. They don't usually allow officers to carry guns in certain areas because it would cause a little bit more concern. And those areas would kind of include hospitals, which now they started kind of letting in some areas, them wear guns. But hospital, school, traffic setting, and entrances of apartments or gated communities, where if somebody saw a gun, it would cause concern, okay? And then there's a level 3, which is a commissioned security guard. These guys are allowed to carry a firearm, and they do have extensive training. And the security guard also must complete a advanced courses and tests in order to obtain this. So it's very thorough. They're very programming it into you. And these guards usually work in areas that are a higher risk area, areas that need more protection due to the value of the assets. And it is one of the most demanding licenses in the state of Texas. So a lot of people will try to achieve this if they're looking into a job for security. Now, a level 4 is for personal protection officers, or also known as bodyguards. They are allowed to work as personal protection for clients. The clients could range anywhere from working a VIP setting event, protecting celebrities or high profile business executives, or as a backstage security officer. Now, with these licenses, every 2 years you have to renew your license. And usually if you let it expire and then try to renew it, you may have to pay some fees, but you are able to renew it even after it expires. So if Garcia has had his expired since April of 2020, then how could he continue being a security officer? There's no way. So where did this man actually work? Since neighbors did report that he was leaving his room, his home, and he was doing it like clockwork. He'd leave for work, come home from work, leave for work, come home from work. But where's he going to work? Because he can't be a security officer when his license is expired, unless somebody hired him and it was under the table kind of thing. There's something wrong with that. Also, another thing you notice is that immediately, media labeled him a white supremacist before they even knew the facts. They just knew, hey, this guy went in and started shooting. They didn't know anything else really until a debriefing by police officials. That's when they started getting information a little bit. But before that, there was nothing that they could run off of. It was just immediately, hey, white supremacist. And they reported this without knowing the facts and started jumping on the fact that, hey, we need more gun control. Hey, we need better help for mental health, which I do believe we do need help for mental health. Like, it needs to be more affordable, everything like that. But immediately, that's what the media jumps to when it comes to things like this. Immediately, it's gun control, it's the gun's fault, it's mental health. But if you really look at the reason why Garcia was separated from the U.S. Army in 2008, just 3 months after enlisting, and never was able to finish basics training, they said that it was under a 2005 edition of the Army Regulation, 635-200, paragraph 517, due to mental health issues, right? Okay. As many military background people, such as myself, you would know that this separation was not because of mental health reasons. So, stay with me, guys, and I'm going to kind of explain it, okay? So, Chapter 5 administrative discharges, there are 3 types, and the 2 that you need to know for this case is Chapter 513 and Chapter 517, of course, because that's what they said he was discharged for. Now, Chapter 517 is very similar to a Chapter 513 because a Chapter 513 is where a physician trained in psychiatry or a licensed clinical psychologist notifies the commander of a soldier that has a deeply ingrained personality disorder, and this disorder is so severe that the soldier's abilities to function effectively in a military environment is significantly impaired. And then from there, the commander can initiate a Chapter 13 separation act. Now, this would include like PTSD, bipolar, or schizophrenia, or any other known mental disorders. Now, a Chapter 517 covers conditions that fail to meet requirements that doctors would call a disorder. Okay, these conditions could be such as like chronic air sickness, seasickness, dyslexia, sleepwalking, claustrophobia, or other disorders manifesting disturbances or perception, thinking, emotional control, or behavior sufficiently severe in the soldier's ability to effectively perform military duties and it's significantly impaired. But most significantly impair a soldier to perform their assigned military task. So like I said, your Chapter 13 is for your mental disorders that are actually labeled as mental disorders, anxiety, PTSD, depression, all that. And then your Chapter 517 is actually just covering things that everyday people have. Motion sickness, claustrophobia, fear of the dark, fear of like certain things, okay? So tell me how he is being discharged under Chapter 517, anything to do with mental health. And there was no other evidence of him suffering from mental health, but he did say that they would go on to report that he said that that nobody could fix what was wrong with him, that mental health was too expensive, he wasn't going to pay for it. And yes, I do believe that someone to commit a crime like this, I do believe there has to be something seriously wrong, but to immediately label it as a mental health and not just a personality dysfunction or something like that is kind of reporting something that you don't know and have evidence for, because there is no evidence that he was suffering from mental health at all. It's just what they are insinuating. He was never technically diagnosed with any mental health issues. Another thing, the media was so quick to report on this without any information being released. You could tell all this by them immediately saying it's because of the lack of gun control. But how is that possible when all his weapons were purchased legally and they were purchased over a long period of time? It's not like he just went out and said, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to go buy this gun and this gun and this gun and this gun and just buy a mass amount of guns before. No, these were actually purchased over time legally. Okay? And they were even straight to racism fault on this and sexist fault. How is it a racial crime, though, when, for one, and I'm not saying just because he's Hispanic that they can't be racist, but the people he targeted were all different races. There was not just one race he was going after. And if you look at it, all the headlines are talking nothing about anything except gun control. The reason this happened, or racism is what led to this, or mental health is what led to this, sexism is what led to this. Like, that's all they're reporting, especially the racism part. And yeah, okay, you don't know that for sure, so why put it out there? You don't know this until you get the information. And finally, when the officers brought the information, it kind of corresponded along with what they were already reporting. But don't report information until you get all the information. You don't want to put false information out there. Like a lot of people I've seen, especially some YouTubers, have been posting certain things, and I will get into that in a minute. But don't report what you don't know for sure. Get the actual physical evidence. You want me to kind of prove, like, they do this a lot because they want you to believe what they want you to believe. Okay? They don't really want you to know the full truth about things. Okay? And the way I'm going to prove this to you is there are a couple examples I can give you of this, like, such as there was one mass shooting that happened a week before this shooting. And it happened in Cleveland, Texas, where a man shot 5 people after a neighbor simply just came out and told the man to stop shooting his firearms in the backyard because he had a baby sleeping. This would actually result in a 4-day manhunt. What about the woman who identified as a transgender man shooting Christian children in Nashville, Tennessee? Where's the coverage on that? Where's the manifestos for that? And for some reason, the motive is unknown. For this one, the motive is unknown. Okay? But immediately, Garcia was a neo-Nazi. I can keep going. I told you there were at least 5, in the first 5 months of 2023, we had already at least had 202 mass shootings. Okay, so what about the black man in Tulsa, Oklahoma that shot and randomly killed white men for just being white? He would, in the back of the head, he killed one that was in a library, walked up to him, shot him. There was another one in a convenience store in the back of the head, shot him, and when he landed, he shot him again. He was known for harassing people on the streets, things like that. None of these were nationally covered, but yet this case, boom, fast narratives, just like the shooting that happened at the gay club Pulse. Right off the bat, if everybody remembers that, right off the bat, the media was saying he was a right-wing who hated gays. Then later they would say, oh no, he's a secret suppressed homosexual. Then they ended up with he was part of an Islamic extremist group, when in fact, it was later on found that the man didn't even know that it was a gay club to begin with. It was just populated, so he was like, okay, this is my target. Okay, what about when they reported the shooting in Fort Hood? Immediately said the soldier was radicalized by a group kind of like ISIS or Al-Qaeda, but they labeled it as a workplace violence later on. Okay, where's the coverage on the multiple shootings on the Jewish community by Black Hebrew Islamics for the past couple years? There has been no coverage on this toxic racist group, but immediately they are able to find reasoning and report about someone being a white supremacist. The most recent case that kind of shows this that I know everyone has heard about is the Jordan Neely case, where that involves Marine Daniel Penny. Neely was a known lifetime criminal black man who had multiple reports of being aggressive to other people, and even had an a warrant out for his arrest for leaving a 15-month facility that he promised the judge he would attend to get some mental health meds and to help him get sober because he was addicted to K2. As a homeless man, addicted to K2, mental health issues, aggressiveness. Now, he promised this to the judge after he had already assaulted a 67-year-old woman by punching her in the face and breaking her nose. But after he would go into this 15-month facility, he would then leave the facility just 13 days later. And that's how he found himself in the subway, where he was threatening other civilians on the train. And this 24-year-old Marine was home between deployments. And other civilians, him and other civilians, would try to neutralize the situation because he was getting aggressive. He was threatening these people. People were scared. And that's when the videos came up. And it only showed part of what actually happened. And it shows Penny putting Neely into a chokehold, and Neely would end up dying from this. But like I said, that's only part of the video. This is the video that you guys would see first that hit the news. Then another video would surface, and it actually shows Neely was trying, the moment that Penny noticed that Neely was in pain and was losing airflow, he would place Neely into a recovery position, a known recovery position, to help him breathe, so it's easier for him to breathe. He never meant to kill Neely. He even admitted he never meant to kill Neely. But immediately, the media made it into a hate crime because one guy was black and the other was white. And started making headlines of this. And in the case, trying to get sympathy for this known criminal who was threatening people and trying to attack people. And they said that he was failed by the system, which in many words, he was failed by the system. But saying that he was failed by the system, he came from a broken home. His mother was murdered and shoved into a suitcase by her boyfriend. He was a high school dropout. And everybody said that they would remember him as this subway entertainer who impersonated the late Michael Jackson dance moves. Just try to make it to where they didn't mention anything about his crime history. The fact that he had a warrant out for his arrest. The fact that he was threatening and assaulting and scaring all these people on a little combined subway. Al Sharpton would even make a statement saying that Penny needs to be prosecuted because of the fact it was a race crime. How is it a race crime? If it was a black man that did it to a black man, would it be okay? A white man doing it to a white man, would it still be a race thing? No, it's a race thing because it was one black man and one white man. Simple as that. Even though one is a decorated war vet, a war soldier who is a Marine, who knows how to handle himself in situations and was just trying to protect what he's already been protecting for so long already, protecting the U.S. citizens from this man that was threatening him. It's a race thing. The media, it was weird because even then, it was stated that he was known for punching other homeless people and even was caught peeing in front of people and was constantly making threats to harm himself and others. But like I said, the media was, no, this is a hate crime. This is a hate crime. Media just wants to go immediately to the racial crime ideology and the lack of control. There has even been some politicians that are using these crimes, especially this crime, to boost their own elections, stating that the Republicans are not doing their job. And with upcoming elections, maybe the people should actually vote accordingly now if they want to change. That right there is political polarization, if you've ever seen it. That is political polarization. Taking something that is affecting other people, that is insane, and throwing it onto another political party saying, okay, we can do better than this. We're going to do better. Vote us. Vote me. Getting their name out there. Advertising for themselves during this great pain that everybody's going through. Now, where is all the proof that Garcia is any of these things that they had already labeled him without known facts, especially since even the police say that they didn't have much to go off of. The pictures of the tattoos, not one has his face in them. Not one. And so how do we actually know it's him? Plus, if you look at the picture of Garcia and this picture, this man looks a lot lighter complected. He actually looks like a white man compared to what Garcia looks like. So how do we actually know it's him? And yes, he did make a lot of posts that are questionable, but I know I'm not the only one that has seen the same things or not, or worse, on other people's accounts. And usually those people are just flapping their jaw because they can. And many just talk and say things they say in posts because it's behind a screen, but would never actually do it in real life. So the only reason they are saying things about this guy is because, yes, he did do an evil crime. But how much of this do we actually know he said and post is legit? Or should we just believe it because we're told to? We are ones that need to see more physical evidence because we don't want to be those sheep that are just herded in by the shepherds saying, hey, this is what we want you to believe. Where's the actual, all the evidential proof? I'm showing you pictures, I'm showing you videos of what the proof that they have shown. But not all of it corresponds with what they have been saying, okay? Also, I mean, you guys got to remember, like, they state, guys, that video games make children violent. Shootings are the gun's fault. And everyone who commits a crime has a sad story and suffers huge mental health illnesses. And if he was making all these posts and claims, supposedly for as long as he was, supposedly, and was not flagged by the FBI before this, I mean, they flag people who show that they are a threat all the time, but they even flag people sometimes for just looking up stupid things. So you're doing a research paper on radioactive activity or something. You do that, boom, you're going to flag. Like, there's certain things, like, that they're going to flag you for. But this man was never flagged. With as much evidence as they said they found on these social media sites, he was never flagged with the FBI. And is all the evidence that they say they have found support any of these matters that they have notified? Another thing I found crazy, and it will be the last thing that I say, is that there are very few YouTubers that have posted about this case. But the ones that have posted on it are just telling you what they're getting from the media. In a way, they've kind of fallen for the trick. They are not doing their own investigation. There are some that are, and they're catching up on this. They're seeing what I saw when I researched this, and they're speaking out. But there's one man in particular, and I'm not going to start a YouTube war with this person, but there is one man in particular that I saw, and I watched a couple of his videos, and he only did like little 5-minute segments. And the very first one was stating that he was the first person to report about this. Like, he's going to give all the coverage on it. He was there, and it was 5 minutes. Didn't say anything. All he said was there was a shooting in Allen, Texas. Boom. And saying Marcio Garcia's name. That was it. And then his second video was of him stating, I'm going to give you all this information on him and Christian Garcia, who is Marcio's brother. But Christian is not involved in this at all. Even officials stated that he acted alone on this. There has been no evidence that anybody else helped. So why is this person reporting something that even the media, I try to look to see where maybe he got this information, but there's no media outlet there that is stating even, or newspaper, like nothing, stating that Christian Garcia had anything to do with what his brother did. Nothing. So I don't know where he's getting his information, but he's also buying into this releasing false information because he's not doing his research. That really bothered me. But, and like I said, they had stated that he did this on his own. He acted alone, so why bring up the brother? And also, I tried, before I posted this video, I went ahead and went back to look for more information that could update, because like I said, I do my research and then I type it up so it helps me remember some of my notes and everything like that, and then I report to you guys. Well, this one, since I had so much detail and so much information, I had to categorize it all. It took me a couple days to actually post this video, so I wanted to make sure I gave you the most updated information. So last night, before I was like, okay, I'm going to post this video in the morning, I looked into it again, and there are just so many issues, because just like so many other huge things that send the nation into an uproar, COVID, the Ukraine, Russia, and many other major news issues are talked about immediately and so extensive and programmed in your head, bam, 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 and then boom, in no time, it is never really mentioned again. And it's the same with this case. Like I said before, I even decided to post this again, I try to look up for some updates. I try to look up some updates on the victims. I try to look up the dates on updates about what more information they have found about the killer. Everything. And I tried to do the extensive research. I tried. And there is no new things. Whether it be from the police or the news. I think the most recent thing that I found posted was from unreliable source, and that was as of yesterday, 2 days ago. But from some more of the reliable sources, those were updated 3 to 4 days ago. So you would think that we would want more coverage. Like, are they no longer investigating? Have the victims all just moved on now? And what about Garcia's family? Do they have anything to say about this tragic crime that one of their own has committed? We haven't heard anything from their family. Nothing stating that they saw signs or anything like that. I haven't seen anything, at least. And if you guys have found some, please let me know. But I have not been able to uncover any of that. And these are just a few questions I have, and I'm sure many others would like to know. So that's one thing. Like, where's the updates? There's no updates. Usually when COVID first came out and the Ukraine first came out, every day there was something new. But this one just kind of poof. And I don't even hear people talking about it on the streets anymore. So what's going on with that? So now that I went on my rant, guys, there was so much information I found, and I don't think that I even covered all of it. This case just kind of went crazy in my mind. But my mind is just literally, it's just everything just went crazy with it that I mentioned so far. So if I find more details, I'm going to let you guys know, sure. But so please, guys, I want to hear any other information that you were able to find, things that you thought were interesting, and or your thoughts and opinions. And trust me, I am sure there's going to be some that are not going to agree with mine, but I still want to hear them. And I'm sure there will be more to come about this case and many others. But until then, y'all, thank you so much for going on this journey with me. And please pray for the families and friends that this crime has impacted, and our hearts and blessings go out to you. And until then, stay blessed.